Thanks for having me. Okay. Thanks, Megan, for having me, and to the LGCC and CVB, and to everyone who's participating. Today's short-term rental lunch and learn is coming at um, a pretty active time with the New York State STR sales tax law, the new sales tax law that passed on 2/28/25. But rather, I'm just going to explain to you what I'd like to discuss with you today, and I am going to pause so that you can ask questions throughout. Um, First off, we're going to give you a brief interview. Then I'm going to talk to you about the financial and regulatory landscape. I want to talk to you about where we are today, where we've been in 2024, and where we are currently from a Warren County perspective. And then what you need to know go forward, not only from a Warren County perspective, but I can give you some insight into some of the New York State changes. I will let you know, and I'm gonna actually not a disclaimer, but put a caveat in here. Literally every conversation I have with New York State and/or NYSEC and/or the platforms is a little different. So this is very new. There's a lot of discussion around it, and I've been told that it's going to take about 9 to 12 months for everything to start working seamlessly. So just please bear that in mind, but I will answer any questions that I can. After I tell you what you need to know go forward, I'm also going to talk to you about the improvements that we've made here in Warren County. And I'm also going to tell you how we're going to communicate to you along the way. I like to call it, what we know so far. Because again, every week or every other week when I go on to different webinars or I meet with different platforms, it's still changing and not everybody is on the same page yet, but I know that that's everybody's goal. Then I'll open it for Q&A, and then I've also attached an appendix with a lot of useful links that I think you'll find helpful. The only thing about the links I'll tell you now, they are you have the Warren County current OCC tax law that covers both hotels, motels, resorts, as well as STRs. That is changing. That will probably change in the second half of 2025, not only for updates we've been working on for the last year, but also in accordance with the New York State, some of the differences with New York State language. And then the rest of the links are with NYSEC, the New York State Association of Counties. They're very useful, but just please keep in mind that some of their webinars and whatnot are geared towards counties. But there is very useful customer support, STR support on there as well. So I've just given you those links. And then finally, with regard to NYSEC, there's a disclaimer there that says, they're doing their best to interpret the law, just like, we are here in Warren County, and they're just saying, to get specific answers to maybe some questions, if you don't understand or don't agree, they encourage everyone to reach out to the state and then also to the platforms. And I do have some contact information on that as well. Okay, let's go on to the next page. Thank you. Hi. Sorry, thank you for the cue. I also have my team members in here with me who work day in and day out on this stuff, on short-term rentals and our OCTAX. Lisa Mandy, who I'm sure many of you have spoken to, and also Rissy Kelly. They man the phones and they get a lot of answers for you guys, and we will continue to do such. With regard to a brief overview of Warren County STRs, if you go way back it's at least 2 decades now, we've had what's commonly referred to as the bed tax. And that was before short-term rentals kind of hit the scene. And I believe our records indicate 2004 when hotels, motels, and resorts when Warren County started to collect bed tax or occupancy tax on those establishments. However, SDRs are a rather recent phenomenon. Well, we updated our occupancy tax law in 2018 to include short-term rentals. It really wasn't until 2021, that we started to see a big impact. So in 2018, we had about 84,000 in occupancy tax collected off of short-term rentals. And in 2021, it was almost $1 million. So that's like 1,000% increase. Since 2021, it's actually incurred exponential growth going from, again, the 84,000 in 2018 to almost $2 million in 2024. We just closed out 2024 at $1.8 million. And that is a 21%, 2,100% increase since inception. New York State generates about, so that's, again, that's 2018 to 2024. Hotels, motels, and resorts since 2004, several decades, have not only been paying Warren County OCC tax, they've also been paying New York State sales tax. So while short-term rentals came on the scene in 2018 with Warren County paying occupancy tax, they haven't been paying sales tax to New York State until this year, which obviously many of you are aware of and why you're here today. With regard to the short-term rental market in New York State, it's approximately $1.1 billion. That's a lot of income that the state has not been collecting sales tax on. Sales tax for the state is estimated at $100 million. We've taken a look at the Warren County numbers, and we're expecting on an annual basis go forward that we'll likely receive of that 100 million, we'll likely receive $1.2 to $1.5 million on an annual basis. Again, with short-term rentals, they come and they go. Some are steady, but there's always new ones coming on and there's always ones being sold. So we'll talk about that as well. And as I said, the 4% occupancy tax has been consistent on STRs and hotels, motels, and resorts since 2018. Any questions?
Nope.
Let's move on.
None yet.
Okay. So on the next slide, giving you some of the financial and regulatory landscape, specifically where we are today. So again, at the end of this presentation, there is a link to our local law, our local OCC tax law, also known as local law number 5. Since I've come in, I've worked very closely with our county attorney, and I've leveraged a lot of the stipulations that I don't think we fully leveraged in the past. So there's been much stricter enforcement of our OCC tax law in 24 and 25. We're also working with third-party consultants to identify short-term rentals that are not registered. We work with, right now we're working with Granicus, but we're also talking to several other third-party consultants because we're also talking about automating end-to-end. So it's going to get a lot more transparent go forward. We're going to have a lot more data, and we're going to have a lot more visibility into what's going on in the market. So again, that's a big plus for us because we're definitely seeing an increase in the STR registration and therefore the taxes. The other thing that was a stricter enforcement last year and this year, there is also a stipulation in the law that says if you're not registered, there will be a $1,000 non-compliant registration fine. So while that's always been in the law and it's never been applied, we started to apply it last year. And with the new law, the new local law, Warren County local law, that fine is likely to increase. We also have been very aggressive with the collection of delinquent OCC taxes. It's been very frustrating for this office. You know, they communicate multiple times, and some people just frankly don't care. And you would think that, you know, some of them are short-term rentals. A lot of them were hotels, motels, and resorts. And, you know, we tried to get sales tax information, and I've literally had people tell me that, you know, they're not really doing a good job with their sales tax either. Our goal for you guys today, our objective is to inform you and to encourage you to get registered so that we don't have to have these, you know, fines and penalties not only go forward, but retrospectively, because we have the ability to do that now. So anyway, the aggressive collection of delinquent taxes, we brought in about 250,000 in 2024, and we've got another 150 expected in 2025. That's also brought in over $100,000 in penalties and interests, where in prior years, it was like $6,000, I believe, $6,000 or $7,000. So some of these people that haven't been paying the OCC tax, I mean, it goes back like 2010, 2012. We have that ability now. And again, we're just hoping everybody, okay. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the note. Um, we have the ability to see what's being currently rented, and we also have the ability to go back and see what's currently rented. So my goal is um, to get everybody informed and registered as soon as possible. With regard to the aggressive tax collections in the past, and go forward, we're leveraging a notice of determination. So after we speak to you guys one time, two times, three times, we call, we send letters, etc. It isn't really until folks see the notice of determination from our office that we really get responses. And what the notice of determination is it's our ability to calculate what we think you owe Warren County based on these third-party um, algorithms and their combing of the internet, if you will. We're able to determine exactly what your rental capacity has been or what it should have been based on documented stays. And then the new vendor we're talking to actually has calendars. So again, we're getting a lot more data. So when I send out this notice of determination, it's a last resort. It's like, okay, listen, I'm going to give you a perfect example. There was a hotel motel resort that hadn't paid us for probably 5 or 6 years. And I did a calculation and I told him on his notice of determination that I was going to place a $500,000 lien, if you will, on his property unless he came in and spoke with us within 30 days. He did come in and speak to us within 30 days. He didn't owe $500,000, but he hadn't presented us with any information. So then he presented us with information and we were able to come to terms, to a meeting of the minds based on actual evidentiary support. But that seems to be the only way people really get concerned and actually knock on our door and say, hey, let's talk. Because basically, if they don't come in and talk to us, I basically then attach that notice of determination to their property, which doesn't allow them to sell their property until that notice of determination has been paid in full. And if you don't talk to me within 30 days, of course, I'm very willing to work with you, but statutorily, if you don't talk to us within those 30 days, I have the ability and the right by law to finalize that. Again, that's not what I want to do. I'm here to inform everybody and hopefully get everybody registered as soon as possible. The other thing that we did in 2024 and we're continuing to do in 25 is the elimination of loopholes. When I came in last year, I had to go to two new hotel owners in Lake George and say, hey, welcome to Lake George. You owe me $100,000. That was not a fun conversation. What's happened in the past, and I believe we have a lot of realtors on the line today on the Zoom, and I believe we have a lot of attorneys. What's happened in the past is that folks have sold their properties, whether hotels, motels, resorts, and short-term rentals, without paying their occupancy tax. Oh, sorry, I thought someone was speaking. Okay. Without paying their occupancy tax. And there's been no way when, the title searches or, when people are looking for the information, they find out about Warren County property taxes owed, but they do not know about the occupancy tax owed, excuse me. So now what we're doing is we're linking through the systems, the occupancy tax to the property tax. So hopefully whenever anyone does a search, when someone's selling their property, they're not just going to see what the property taxes are that are owed. They're also going to see how much occupancy tax is owed the county, because again, I don't ever want to have that conversation again where I have to go to brand new owners in Warren County and have them, have to pay $100,000 for occupancy tax that wasn't even their responsibility, because by law, the occupancy tax travels with the property. So by us not, by that loophole, if you will, it's not a great loophole, and we're going to be closing that. One last point, and it's on the very bottom of the slide, and it's really important. I believe we have the editor from the Hague Chronicle also on the Zoom call today. She's been doing great work and really talking to a lot of folks in Hague. Some of the STR owners, I call it flying under the radar. They may only rent their property out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. separately, always under 30 days, but maybe just to cover their taxes. Again, that's still considered a short-term rental. And again, you're still required go forward historically to pay a short-term rental op tax to Warren County, and now go forward New York State sales tax. But again, a lot of people are like, it's only, here or there. So what I was hoping I was going to be able to do, and I found out yesterday that I can't, I was hoping to kind of, have this year as communication and education and just knowledge sharing with everyone to say, listen, here's the deal. Everything's changing. Warren County's changing. We're getting more strict. New York State is changing. With all of this change going on, I just wanted to communicate and inform people and hope that by the end of 2025, I could basically give an amnesty and say, hey, just get informed, get registered. And because in 2026, things are going to get, we're going to go retroactive. Unfortunately, my colleague, our county attorney, has said that I do not have that ability by law to grant that. However, we are going to look into it, but if it doesn't pass the board, which I do not think it will, or actually he doesn't think it will, what I'm saying right now is stricter enforcement go forward. So get informed and get registered by Memorial Day 2025, or risk retroactive penalties and interest. So while I can't give you that carte blanche through the end of the year, I can at least get it through Memorial Day of 2025. Any questions before I move on?
Nope, keep going.
Thank you. Okay, here's some of the new stuff. This is, I'm sure, the stuff a lot of people are very interested in. And again, I am not a New York State sales tax expert. And I'm gleaning all of this information from my discussions with New York State, from NISAC, et cetera. So these are the things you need to know about the New York State's short-term rental sales tax law requirements go forward. There is a new definition, and it's comprehensive. I've had people challenge me in the past, well, I only rent out a room, or, I've got the bungalow exception, or, they're basically, it's a comprehensive, expansive definition, which I'm not going to read here, but it's there for your use. And where such unit is located in a covered jurisdiction, I will let you know that Warren County has been a covered jurisdiction and allowed to charge occupancy tax since the early 2000s. So it's a comprehensive, much broader definition. Actually, it considers an entire dwelling unit or room, group of rooms, other living or sleeping space, which kind of brings in yurts and glamping, if you will, or any other space within a dwelling made available for rent by guests, of course, for less than 30 days. And we, Warren County, are a covered jurisdiction. So there's still some ambiguity there, but it's comprehensive. They've also taken out, they've gotten rid of all the prior exceptions. So the bungalow exception is gone. The 4 or less cottages is gone. So basically, it's going after anything that's rented in less than 30 days capacity. The other really good thing that came out of this law, which again, short-term renters, owners sometimes struggle with, is what exactly is gross revenue? Gross revenue is not just the nightly rate. Gross revenue, like hotels, motels, and resorts, includes cleaning fees, includes extra guest fees, and includes animal charges. So that was a welcome clarification, because again, we get a lot of not only questions, but we get a lot of arguments that people just, they don't agree with it. And, now it's black and white. There is no ambiguity in that. Questions? Let's go on.
I have a question. I have a question, ma'am. Pam
Sure.
York, Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. This doesn't mean that all of Warren County is now available for short-term rentals, does it?
No, you have to register to be a short-term rental.
No, I don't mean that. I mean by town. Like Lake George doesn't allow short-term rentals. That still stands regardless of this topic.
That still stands. Yes,
Okay.
the local law, the local municipality law still stands.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we work very closely with the municipalities, so that is correct.
Christine, we had another question come in as well. Does this include the 15% fee to Airbnb, question mark?
My understanding is no, or
Yes, you pay, that is not an exemption. You have to pay occupancy tax on the gross amount. It cannot be reduced by what you pay the platform for their service.
does that answer the question?
That's what the question.
How about damage reimbursements that sometimes guests cause and pay us for those? Are those taxed as well?
So no, my understanding is generally you have a security deposit, and those, we don't tax the security deposit, and any kind of damages would come out of that security deposit, and we do not tax you on the damages.
Okay, and I am going to ask that everyone just submit through the chat because we have chat coming in as well as audio. I do have an additional question. If we have reservations reserved for future stays in 2025, do we now have to collect sales tax? We were under the bungalow exemption.
You are under the bungalow exemption. Okay. So the law went into effect on 2/28/25. Oh, sorry, excuse me. It passed on 2/28/25. Thanks, guys. So that means March 1st, 3/1/25 is when you are expected to start collecting sales tax. The bungalow exception went away as that date as well, so you will no longer have that bungalow exception, and you will be asked to submit Warren County OC tax. With regard to the sales tax, that's an interesting, and I have asked that question myself. To the extent that you've collected money prior to 3/1/25, I believe that money is tax exempt, but anything past 3/1/25 has to have New York State that you receive and collect past 3/1/2025 has to be taxed and remitted to New York State.
Okay, both are saying that the questions were answered, so I'm going to move to the next slide.
Thank you. Let's see. So this came up in actually a board meeting with Warren County. There were actually participants that were asking questions about the changes in short-term rental law. And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to communicate as much as possible through this landscape. We're also doing some press releases. We're also updating our website. So we're going to try to keep you as informed as possible with regard to what we know when. But still, it is every short-term rental owner's responsibility to understand all state, all county, and all local municipality laws related to your business. So if you have an agreement with Airbnb or VRBO or any of the other 140, platforms that are out there, whether it's through realtors or whether it's through even your own independent website, you need to understand the laws that are applicable to you. So right now, the big thing that's going on with the New York State sales tax law, and I would say it's still being worked out, is exactly whether or not the platforms are going to remit on your behalf. I believe that they're saying they'll remit to New York State the sales tax on your behalf. I think what's the gray area is whether or not they will remit the occupancy tax on your behalf. So we're still working through that with the collection, right? Collection and remittance. But what's very clear in the New York State tax law is no matter, and also with Warren County, you may do 50% of your business. And this is also not just true for STRs. This is also motels, hotels, and resorts. You may, because they're all on Expedia.com and, they're trying to get rid of their excess rooms and they're giving deals out there on these platforms. So whatever you do through your platform, that is one requirement from what you owe Warren County and what you owe New York sales tax. Anything that you do independently throughout your own website or people that walk in and say, hey, do you have any availability? That is your responsibility, especially with regard to your independent bookings. So anything that's non-platform is still 100% your responsibility to collect, remit, and report. So in addition, all STR owners remain ultimately responsible for. So again, we get this question a lot. you know, this, it's the platforms, or the platform's going to collect. And what if they don't collect on my behalf? You need to really work with your platforms, because ultimately, Warren County, through our local law, you are ultimately responsible for remitting your OCC tax to Warren County, just as you're ultimately responsible for remitting your sales tax to New York State. That's why it's very important that you work with your platforms, you gain a detailed understanding of exactly what they're doing and what they're not doing. Because bottom line, it's your bottom line. Your ultimately responsibility has not changed from a Warren County perspective. And I know that New York State, I'm a little bit grayer on New York State, whether, it's the platform or it's you, but from a Warren County perspective, we expect the short-term owners to be fully 100% responsible for remitting the occupancy tax to the county. I see there's a couple questions.
Yep. So the first question is, can you clarify the bungalow exception? This person has had new rentals over the past month, and she doesn't see that Airbnb is charging for sales tax.
Yeah, I actually, on the next page, there is a problem. I believe Airbnb started collecting for OCC tax, sales tax, excuse me,
They're not collecting.
April 1st.
March 15th, they said they were going to start collecting sales tax only.
Okay, it's on the next page. If you can just give me a minute on that one, I'll get you the exact details. Do we have another question?
Yeah, so as of that, someone did state again, as of March 15th, Airbnb collected sales tax from my guest, but collected 7.9%. And they are not collecting, Airbnb is not collecting occupancy tax.
It's true.
That is our understanding.
Okay, and then can you clarify, so sales tax, someone did ask, is it 8%?
Sales tax in New York State is 7%.
Well, Warren County is 7%.
Oh, excuse me, Warren County is 7%.
Okay, and then someone's just stating March 15th, they started, why 7.9% is the question.
With their platform.
Yeah, well, you'll need to actually clarify that with your platform. That is not the Warren County. That's not the Warren County sales tax rate. 7% is for Warren County, and it all goes to the state first. And then the state remits our 3%. The state keeps 4% of the sales tax that's earned in Warren County and remits 3% back to the county. Okay. Oops, sorry.
No,
Any other questions?
I think I will move on.
Okay. So here are some of the improvements in the communications along the way. I guess it's a different slide than this one where I talked to you about who's collecting what and when. So some improvements in communications along the way that I want to share with you. The good news is we've got a great process. We've got a great team, and they're very helpful. And we have been inundated with calls, and we're doing our best to get you answers that we have. But again, and I don't have, while I have a New York State contact, New York State sales tax contact for you, I do not yet have platform contacts for you guys. I'm assuming you have contracts with them. Hopefully you have the contacts to speak with them, but I know sometimes they're not exactly, it's hard to get people on the phone. But I'm still working on that, and we hope to get that for you. With regard to what we're doing in Warren County for you, we are in the process of negotiating with different third-party consultants an end-to-end automated experience for you. So you will be able to go, hopefully, by the end of this year, onto our website, and you will see an occupancy tax portal. And basically, we will be automating online registration all the way through the collection process. Again, as I shared earlier, we're systemically linking occupancy tax owed and property taxes owed, so that go forward, no Warren County property, whether hotel, motel, resort, or STR, can be sold until both obligations are met. There's a little bit of just a little caveat I'm going to share with you. I know that some people may, let's just give an example where you sell in January, but your OCC tax isn't due until March. Basically, what we're going to put in the new law is that whatever OCC tax you owe as of January, as of the date that you sell, it will have to be paid as of that date rather than your normal filing date. And hopefully that's clear to everybody. In the interim, until we get this process up and running, until we get this automation up and running, we will continue with our robust registration, collection, and enforcement processes, as well as our overall customer service. Again, I call it what we know so far, because every week, I'm hearing different things, and sometimes there's confusion. And again, we're working with New York State only wants to hear about your New York State sales tax questions. So we're working with New York State's Association of Counties, NYSAC, and also I am working with high-level regulatory and compliance folks at the platforms and their tax teams. And again, those folks aren't the best people for you to talk to because they're all policy and things like that. But again, we're working, to get you contacts at the customer service level. So we can't speak definitively to the New York State tax law, as it's not our law, nor can we speak to booking platform interpretation and or execution of this law. Any other questions?
Oh, I think there was clarity on the last question with what you just said.
Okay. Oh, I thought we had another slide.
We have some here.
Oh. So there does appear to be a slide missing. My apologies for that. No, for whatever reason, I don't know how it got lost. So we'll take Q&A in just a second, but there is one other point that I wanted to share with you. I believe Airbnb was collecting as of when?
315 for Airbnb and 41 for
Expedia.
yes.
So, sorry, that was on a slide that I don't appear to have.
So everybody should check their transactions.
Okay, hold on. So hold on one second. So, the point that I want to make with that, the law went into effect on 3/1/25. So you've got Airbnb not collecting until 3/15. Again, this is New York State sales tax. And you've got Expedia not collecting until 4/1. So I have specifically asked New York State, what are you expecting from these STR owners? Are you just going to have a grace period? What are you expecting from 3/1/25? And I was told that despite the fact that they passed it on 2/28/25, the law went in effect 3/1/25, and they're expecting sales tax as of 3/1/25. Again, it doesn't really, except for the exceptions, the bungalow exceptions, and the 4 or less cabins, those are the only things that we will be expecting from 3/1 from an OCC tax perspective, because everybody already knows our current process. So you do need to work that out with your platforms, and you do need to work that out with New York State, because, it may not be a material amount, but I don't think that New York State is giving a grace period, and the platforms are not collecting as of 3/1. That was really the only other thing I think was on that other page that I left out. Do you want to open it up to some more questions, or are we good?
Yeah, there's some questions that are coming in, and I think you did partially speak to them, but I want to make sure that they're here. So do we collect 4% for Warren County and remit to you?
No. So like when you pay sales tax anywhere else in the county, whether it's clothes, whatever, you pay to the retailer, and then the retailer submits their applicable sales tax to New York State. So when you have an STR, hotel, motel, or resort, you have the 7% sales tax at the end, at the bottom of the invoice. That goes directly to New York State. New York State does a calculation with all of our sales tax from Warren County, and they keep 4%, and Warren County gets 3%. You do not remit directly sales tax to Warren County.
Okay, an additional question, will you go back retroactively to Airbnb as of March 15th to collect the 4% OCC tax? Or if we remit the quarterly tax form from March 15th forward, will we get reimbursed?
Airbnb is not collecting OCC tax.
Airbnb is not collecting OCC tax. Again, the platforms, it's still not, when I first read the law, and I've read the law like 3 or 4 times now, when I first read the law, I thought it was pretty clear that New York State was putting the onus on the platforms to collect both New York State sales tax and Warren County and the county occupancy tax for all of the New York State STR owners. That is being discussed, debated, contested, whatever you will. And some of the platforms are happy to do it. I'll be perfectly frank, Airbnb is not one of the ones that's, wants to do it. They're trying to come up with a different way. So know that nothing has changed, nothing will change until this is all ironed out. From an occupancy tax standpoint in Warren County, your best bet as an STR owner is to continue to collect the occupancy tax on your rentals. Again, platforms, I believe, generally send the occupancy tax to you if they're remitting on your, if they're collecting on your behalf, they send it to you, and then you send it to Warren County. My best advice to you, you are ultimately responsible for paying Warren County the occupancy tax due. So as a result, you should be getting that from your platforms, and you should continue to report that as you have historically to Warren County.
Okay, Patricia Dow, is there any way you could turn your video on with your audio and just ensure that I'm asking the question correctly? Because it seems that your question was cut off. Can you just ask your question that you'd like to ask?
So my question in total, and there were a couple that went in prematurely, parts of it. So Warren County OCC tax is 4%. Sales tax is 7%. New York State returns part of that 7% to Warren County. So we're supposed to collect 11% tax altogether, 4 going to Warren County, 7 going to New York State on this rental.
Correct.
Not worry about what comes back from New York State to Warren County. That's just like
That's
nothing to do with us.
that's
that
nothing to do with you.
Great. Okay. Just trying to
Thank
clarify.
you. Does Warren County have a registration renewal process, or once you register and start paying, no further process will be required?
No, so I do apologize. There is a there's a slide that's missing. Hold on one second. I'm just going to pull this over here. So one more second. Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Does Warren County have a registration renewal process, or once you register and start paying, no further process will be required?
That's another change with New York State, and I apologize. I will get you that additional page afterwards, but that's another change with New York State. So they want to keep track of STRs very closely go forward, where Warren County historically you've registered once and that's it, and there hasn't been fees. Go forward, New York State, this STR sales tax requirement is requiring an every other year or every 2-year renewal. The other thing that you should be aware of is that New York State is now giving the counties the ability to charge back, if you will, the administration fees to both the STR owners and the platforms. Again, this is something that's being discussed. It's written, and it does give us the ability, but we're looking into it and we're trying to understand it more. And nothing will probably happen until the end of the year when we figure this out. Again, nine months, I think November, sometime in November is the 275 days that things really start to take effect.
Okay, I have someone who may want to jump on, just so I'm not, is it Sarah Millington from Gallo Realty? You have a question regarding the platform collecting versus the owner. Is there any way?
Yes, I have a question. So back, Christine was mentioning that they're still in discussion about it being mandatory possibly for the platform to collect the sales tax. So my question to that effect is, would we in essence have to create a sales or the sales tax like number or anything, or would it still be on each owner to have their own sales tax, like registered with New York State, their sales tax number for each owner separately?
I'm a little fuzzy on that. I do think you need your own sales tax number with New York State, and that is something that you need to work with your platform on, your respective platforms. And if you're an independent person that doesn't use platforms, you would need to apply for a New York State sales tax.
So So
ID.
Gallo Realty, we have rentals that are
Okay.
seasonal rentals. We have a rental department that handles those. So that's my question. Do we need to be the ones to be setting these up, or is it solely, can we tell our owners that are renting their places that they need to set up their own sales tax, just like they have their own occupancy tax set up?
So I think you need to contact New York State. My guys are behind
Okay.
me saying, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't
No,
know
that's
that.
okay.
Yeah. But you would think it's the same thing because with Warren County, you absolutely, and we want the owners to register with us and not necessarily the third party manager. We want them to identify who their third party manager is, whether it's a realtor, whether it's, just a management, property manager. But we want each owner and to register their property. That's another change that's coming down the pike. Because of this, reporting requirements go forward. Historically, we have, they're called remarketers or property managers may have 10 short-term rentals that they manage, and there's only one registration for that property manager to get us information. We will be changing that go forward because every individual property has to have their own registration number go forward. So
Okay, so I believe this question was answered, but so for the sales tax at 7%, they only need to register at the state level, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Not
Will
with
the
us.
county be changing their collection form in any way to reflect these changes?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that now. So again, this will all be communicated. It'll be on the websites. We're going to put out press releases. We'll probably even have a webinar or video on the treasurer's webpage to take you through the changes and so that you better understand what the changes are and how to accurately fill out the new collection or new tax remittance forms.
Okay, I haven't had any other further questions. Is there anyone else who has a question before we conclude?
I'm actually just trying to find, I don't know where it went. Yeah, that's just the one thing that was missed, but it was the fact that you're going to have to register every 2 years and that there may be a fee going forward, but we really have to look into that and figure that out.
Okay, I did have one final question come in. Please clarify, does each rental property have to be registered with the county or each property owner who maintains records for all short-term rental properties?
Each short-term rental property has to have its own individual registration in Warren County. We may be able to work with folks go forward. I'm not sure if one owner has like 3 properties.
No.
We may be able to do sub. We're not sure. We've got to look through that. But right now, according to the changes that are being made, each short-term rental property needs to have an individual unique registration number.
Okay, and just confirming, if reservations were made prior to 3/1, March 1st. Sorry, I'm getting a bunch in. Those are exempt from sales tax, correct?
We don't know that.
That's not, actually, I've had a couple of conversations on that. My understanding is any money collected on 2025 reservations before 3/1 are not subject to sales tax. That's my understanding. Again, New York State is the best person to answer that question, but I've had discussions with NYSAC on this, and that is our understanding because the law wasn't in effect. Now, on a lot of reservations, they may put down a down payment. So let's say they put $250 down and a credit card to secure the reservation before 3/1 for a 2025 reservation. The $250 would not be subject to sales tax, or should not be, at least with my understanding of the law and the conversations that I've had. If you collect the other $1,000 in July, that's going to be subject to New York State sales tax. If you collect it all before 3/1/25, again, that should not be subject because the law was not passed. And that is my understanding through discussions with NYSAC. And actually New York State was on one of the first calls. But again, this is a very fluid discussion. It's changing, it's being challenged. I would encourage you to get in touch with New York State. Actually, if you look at the last slide, you gonna share this deck with folks? Okay.
Yes.
I've actually given you the name. Oh, I haven't? Okay. There's a New York State. We'll as soon as we get information for you on who you can talk to, and we do have a New York State sales tax person that we can share with you. We don't have platform folks just yet. And then someone asked whether or not I saw it come up quickly, and I can't emphasize this enough. Cleaning fees are subject to all taxes. They are part of the overall stay. So they are subject to Warren County occupancy tax. And again, that clarification that I shared with you earlier on what gross revenues exactly mean, that's coming from New York State. So it's your nightly rate, it's your cleaning fees, it's your extra people fees, it's your animal fees.
Okay, so in regards to the registration, I believe someone's asking about registering each property as you discussed. Would those have to be registered separately, even if it is the same address?
That would be addressed on an individual basis.
Yeah, we might have to discuss that individually. Again, we're here to support you guys. And again, while we're all trying to figure this out as we go forward. So if it's one large STR and has multiple rooms, or multiple, like it's a 4-pack or not a duplex, but a quadplex or something like that, we'd have to talk to you individually about that.
Okay, are resort fees subject to sales tax as well?
That I don't know, but I would think so. That's again, something that I would talk to New York State about.
Excuse me, I did have an additional question or thought. When someone mentioned that the Airbnb fee for marketing your property would be included as part of what would be taxable income. And that doesn't seem right to me. That seems like that's a marketing cost as opposed to income coming from the property, like the cleaning and the dog fee. Those seem like people paying money for the unit, but the cost to be on the platform seems like a marketing fee to me and would not be included in the taxable income.
An operating expense. I see your point. We can look for clarification.
Tax return. No, it's reduced from your gross earnings, and it's a cost of doing business for whomever is using the platform.
Right. That's what I thought.
So, okay. Glad we clarified that.
Okay, and I believe that these are just similar questions to the one that you weren't quite positive about, just going back on reservations that were booked and paid based on the tax structure prior to the change in the sales tax. For example, summer goers booked in January, February, tax was listed and collected, not sales tax.
I know we spoke about the couple of other things that I had on another page, and somehow I think I was expecting another page in here. Yeah, but that's okay. And if anybody else has any questions, we're here. But this is going to take about 9 to 12 months to really kind of work out seamlessly. But again, the questions for New York State and the questions for the platforms, those are really questions we would encourage you to ask them directly, because we do not have, we are not them. We can't speak for them. We can talk to you about what Warren County is expecting. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, this concludes our program. Just as a wrap up for those of you who missed the opening, we will be sending a recap email to all of those who are registered. I will include the deck. Christine, if you have the updated slide, I can certainly include that. The links should be live for anyone who, they should be clickable within the deck. And Christine, would you want me to, I can connect with you, but just in regards to contact information and any questions that people need to ask, I can certainly share that in a follow-up email as well.
Right, and all of our information is right on our page, Warren County Treasurer Department. All of our information is there as well. Okay?
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.